Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Tom Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guajian Philo-Cultural Society. His extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, we'll be discussing family, how to maintain a healthy relationship. Welcome back, Lin.
Good morning.
I keep getting tripped up on that. I shouldn't even say this because it's terrible, but every time I read that Guajian Philo-Cultural Society, I always want to say Guo.
You always want to what?
I always want to say Guai-Lo.
That's hilarious.
Anyhow, that's sort of a derogatory term for Westerners.
It is.
But so tonight we're going to discuss a little bit about family and maintaining a healthy relationship. I guess, we can touch upon when you're cultivating and, maintaining a healthy relationship.
Yeah, sure. As a cultivator, and then as just a non-cultivator in general, Like, right as we're recording, my son is in the office with me, and I was like, oh, he started crying, and then I realized, hey, we're talking about family here. Let me bring him over to the microphone.
There he is.
There you go. So, family and maintaining a healthy relationship, what does that mean?
It means you should let your child flush whatever he wants down the toilet.
Pretty much. Not really, no. But it just basically...
That's an inside joke. Lin just had to tear his toilet apart because his son flushed something down he shouldn't have.
Yeah. He went through a lint machine cover, a lint remover cover into the toilet bowl. This is good background music. And it stocked up the toilet bowl, so it wasn't really good.
Well, this is sort of a timely topic, I guess, judging by your...
It's perfect. Yeah. I love it. That's perfect sound for a family right there.
Yeah.
All
right, so how not to go crazy when your son's freaking out? We could start with that.
Perfect. When the baby is crying, you have no clue why. And I'm only been a father for a year and a half now, and I've never sat there and screamed at my kid going, "What the hell's wrong with you? What the hell, man?" I just sat there, looked at him, and laughed and said, "You have no clue how to tell me what you want." I said, "You are so pitiful." And he just cried some more, and I just laughed, and I just enjoyed it and watched him and said, "Okay, when you learn how to speak, it'll make things much easier." And then he'll just cry for another 5 minutes.
Start practicing now, little guy.
Yeah, so now he can speak, which is pretty cool. He can point and grab and nod his head yes or shake his head no in any which direction he wants when he wants something.
Well,
anyway.
one good thing about children, they can certainly teach you as a parent patience, right? Cultivate
definitely.
Patience.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I mean, now everything you do is for everyone around you in your family, in your household. Your sitting meditation to your brushing your teeth in the morning. I mean, all that is important to the people around you. If you don't brush your teeth, you're gonna, they're gonna get knocked out by your breath. It's always nice to be, have good smelling breath for the family.
So what about, I don't want to turn into a negative talk, but what about people that get freaked out, get frustrated when their kids cry and, they take it out on the kids or take it out on everybody else?
Well, let's go generally. It's greed. It goes into the 3 poisons in a cultivator's life and in a non-cultivator's life: greed, anger, and ignorance. And just add in desire right there. Master Hua, you would say stupidity, because he was just straight up like that. But over time, we kind of feel, that's a little too strong for some people. It's just greed, anger, and stupidity. That's all it is. But it's greed. We want the baby not to cry. We want to be calm and silent in the space around us, and crying for longer than 5 to 10 seconds would drive most people crazy, especially a high-pitched, frustrated, arms flailing kind of manner. And your reaction, or a person's reaction, or in this case a parent's reaction to the baby crying, um, sporadically and at all times of the night, really lets the person know what kind of person they are, truthfully. So those people who get upset and crazy over a kid crying for like more than 5 minutes, even though that's a long time for crying, babies can go half hour, an hour, go longer. How your reaction is tells you a lot about your own experience with other people and how they dealt with you when you were frustrated.
Hmm. Good point.
If we
I mean,
can, if we
go
can
ahead.
go back and remember some of these influences, we can change our reaction. I mean, so the baby cries. So the baby shouldn't cry? How about the baby not breathe? How about the baby not eat? How about the baby just laugh for like 2 hours? Just switch the thing around. Crying for an hour or laughing for an hour. Nonstop. Arms flailing, jumping up and down in excitement and happiness and bliss for a whole hour. But your parents can't take that laughter when they want to watch a movie. The baby, stop! I want to listen to the TV. I want to watch the TV. I can't hear what they're saying. Quiet! And then the baby starts crying because the parent's aggression scares the baby, and then the baby cries because he feels it's not wanted, not loved, not feeling affection for, and then now he cries for an hour, and there's you 2 hours of movie watching down the drain.
Well, I mean, the way I always look at it, if a baby's crying, he's not just doing it for sport. He's got some reason, right, that he obviously can't communicate to you, and that's his only means of communication. So
yeah, it's frustrating.
It's a bit frustrating, and then you got to try and figure out what the problem is, right?
Well, no, it's frustrating for the baby.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for the baby too. Frustrating for both
for the baby too. Okay, yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I've gotten times like 2, 3 in the morning, the baby just starts waking up and starts saying he's hungry. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll make you some eggs. I'll make you something, and I make some eggs. And you don't want to eat it. And then he'll take a drink of water and go to sleep. Look at him go, okay. And then he'll wake up a half hour later and just cry. And I would look at him and go, look, dude, your crying does nothing for anybody in this house. Obviously, it's going to hurt your throat in the morning. So if you don't stop crying now, you will have a sore throat. And I will go crazy. And he just looks at me and he stops for like 2 seconds. And then he cries again. So like comically. And then I just sit there and laugh at myself that I tried to have a reasonable conversation with him. But anyway, it's patience. We have to be patient with this for ourselves, not for the baby. Patience with oneself, one's own wants. We want this to stop. Our wanting is the poison. Our wanting and our attachment to the wanting is what drives us to more frustration and then anger. And then when some parents to a little child do ridiculous things like throw the kid across the room or kick him or beat him or slap him to try to get him to quiet, like that's going to help. Yeah, feeling pain always made people stop saying ow. I've seen this in the streets, a kid crying. I was waiting online in the airport a week ago. On the airport, and a 3-year-old kid, I think his grandmother was holding him, and the kid was crying. So she slaps him on the butt, and the kid cries some more, and I just start laughing. Because I'm like, that doesn't stop a kid from crying. The kids cry, you slap him. That's not going to make him stop. It's going to make him cry more because it hurts.
Exactly.
It's just like, this kind of logic doesn't work. It's frustration with oneself that one cannot handle, one cannot accept what is happening, and their greed for having things their way overtakes what actually is happening at this time. And their actions.
Yeah, so I guess obviously it's just a lot better to try and figure out what's going on, but I mean not everybody seems to be capable of doing that. So in that situation, like what do you do with that person? Would you just ignore them, or would you try and show them away, or is it not your place to do it? Because if you get in there, you're just going to create more problems.
Well, obviously the person doesn't want to listen to reasoning because it's just slapping a kid who has no sense for reason whatsoever.
True.
So you sit there and go, poor kid. But I mean, if they're ridiculously beating the child, that's a problem. That's when you step in. What the hell's wrong with you? You got to stop. Yeah. And then they get angry with you, and you're okay, go ahead. Do it to me. Go ahead. And then you put them in their place. You stop them. And you make them try to realize.
You smack them.
I didn't say use violence.
Yeah.
I didn't say use violence. I just said you stop them.
You know, you let them know that it's not good to do that. Some people can get it, some people don't, because they feel they're superior. It's their kid, and they're more superior than the child than anyone else. Everyone else doesn't know how to raise this person's kid. It's amazing all these notions as a parent, a parent can make about how they should raise a kid and what kind of kid this child is. Okay, it's like, who is anyone else to tell this person? The person thinks this. Who is anyone else to tell me how I should raise my kid? Obviously, you have an attitude problem. You can't control your own wants and desires, and your own greed overtakes you, and you do ignorant things, and now you create notions of superiority, which in turn teach the child that when he doesn't get what he wants, he can beat up on anybody or yell and scream at anyone.
Yeah,
A kid is very magical like that.
a lot of that out there too.
Very much so. Not saying you don't, slap a kid on the butt once in a while or tap their hand when they do something that is very harmful to them, to let them know. When they're young, they don't know reason, but they know the vibration of your voice, and if you can take time to be patient and teach someone who has no clue what anything means at all, then the kid will learn patience, and the kid will learn how to speak.
So, do you think, like, is it okay to yell at a kid every now and then, or to slap him every now and then, as long as you don't do it in an angry way? Like, if you're doing it more out of compassion for the child, you know what I mean? Like, if he's going to touch a hot stove, you yell at him, right? You're
okay, there you go. Yes. See, that's good, right? Like when a kid puts his finger in the socket, electrical socket. You're like, don't do that. And they smile and point at it and try to do it again and see, like, they want to play with you. And you're like, no, don't do that. And they go, hee 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 hee. And then they put their finger in it. Thankfully, they didn't put two fingers in it. They put their one finger in it, and they didn't lick their finger, so that's good, too. And you go over and you be a little bit more forceful on your voice, and maybe that stuns them, and they realize, oh, wait, if I do this, then this sound comes again. And I don't like that feeling. It scared me, so I'm not going to do this anymore. But if they keep doing it, even though they're not getting it, or maybe they forgot. They're kids, they're going to forget. You can't just assume you tell the kid 3 or 4 times they're going to get it. You got to tell them 1,000 times. They forget things. That's just what happens. They may forget. So at that point, a tap on the hand, make them realize that's not something that happens, that that's not something you should do, is not harmful. This is called disciplining children. This is called teaching. If I have a person, and even an adult, who comes to my house and starts taking things off my walls just because he likes the way it feels in his hands, and I'm like, no, you don't do that. Then he puts it back, and then he takes it down again and puts it back. I'm like, get the hell out. And you don't want to get out, and he starts getting a little uptight and a little angry, then there's going to be a bigger problem. So sometimes people need a louder voice to really wake up. Sometimes, a compassionate slap in the head to stop people from doing wrong things, doing things that hurt themselves and really impose their will on other people. Sometimes a bigger imposition of the will can stop them from doing it. And then you go, I didn't want to impose my will on you, but obviously you are not understanding that these things are not to be done because they cause harm and they cause suffering for people. It's not something you should do.
Yeah.
Like for a child, touching a hot stove, exactly. You tell them no, they go to do it again. You tell them no again, then they go to do it again. You know what? Go ahead, touch the hot stove. Be my guest. And they touch it and start crying. You know what? You'll never do that again. Yeah. Or you can make motions with your hands that say, oh, hot, no, ow, no good, no good. And maybe they'll learn that way too. And then if they just feel like doing it when you're not watching, well, you can't be on a child. You can't be on anyone 100% of any time at all. But you have to be there as much as you can because the child has no clue of anything.
It seems like a lot of times, as a parent, you want to try and impart some of the wisdom you've learned through your own experiences or trial and error or your own pain, and you kind of want to spare your children these painful experiences. But, sometimes I guess they just have to learn for themselves, right? No matter how much you tell them, they want to. Right. They have to do it themselves, I guess.
Right. My son likes to take his cookies and dip it in my coffee. But usually puts his whole hand when he dips in the coffee. Thankfully, one day my coffee cup wasn't hot and the coffee was cold, and he put his whole hand in there. So now every time he still used to see a coffee cup, in the house, especially when it was very hot, he would try to put his hand in there, and I stopped him many times from doing it. And no, 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 and he would cry because he really wants to dip his cookie in the coffee. So I look at him and I say, touch the cup first, and we touch the cup together. And he goes, ooh, ow, ow. I said, yeah, now what happens if you touch the water? The coffee is even hotter. And he'll take his cookie and try to dip it in the coffee, and then he goes to dip, and I move the coffee cup a little bit further away so he don't get his fingers. But he has to put everything in there. So I say, okay, go ahead. And he dips it, and then he looks at me like, I don't want to curse, but it's like, what the F, Like, come on, why didn't you tell me? And he just like, oh, and I look at him and say, I told you, and you didn't want to listen. Ha, ha, ha. And he just starts laughing. And then I say, you want to dip it again? And he takes his cookie away, and he just eats it. And he don't want to dip it. Now every time he sees a cup, instead of just grabbing at it or putting something in it, he looks, and he puts his hand like an inch away from the cup to see if it's hot. He figured it out by himself over a little bit of trial and error, and now he has his own method. Now another trick. Well, another trick is now he doesn't put his hand in the cup with the cookie. He throws the cookie in the cup. He does it with everything, whether it's cold water, tea, or coffee, or whatever. He'll take his little eats. He'll look at you, look at the cup, and he'll throw it in there and smile. And he'll give you a spoon so you can scoop it out.
He's just trying. He's either being a total jerk or he's trying to teach you some patience, or maybe both.
Yeah, it's so funny. But you see, people cannot be upset at babies for doing things that are wrong considered by the parent, and generally just not very safe. You can't be angry at a kid for that because the kid doesn't know anything whatsoever about what it means. So really kind of getting upset at him is kind of silly. We have to be patient and understand that our wants and desires are things that we are looking to maintain are basically impermanent. And especially with a child, everything we think is cool, calm, and collected is not cool, calm, and collected. It's always impermanent. It's never stable. The kid wakes up at 3 a.m, and the next day he'll wake up at 6 a.m. That's just how it is. But you got to teach.
Do you ever find yourself, like, the first couple times he threw the cookie in the cold water, it was probably kind of funny, but then after, like, the 10th time, do you find yourself getting frustrated or losing your patience at all?
No, I like cookies, so I'll just eat it. I don't care. But when it comes to where he's throwing stuff and water's getting all over the place, I got to clean it and I got to stop him. And he loves doing that. He loves water. So, you on one hand, you go along with what he's doing. On the other hand, you teach him how that is not really the best thing to do. And it takes time. They're not going to get it in 1 day or even 2 months. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's what a parent must realize, that you must take time. And must not think you told the child once, twice, 3 times, and they should get it. They're a child. If it was a 20-year-old, I would understand you getting upset after saying, if you put your hand in the coffee, you're going to get burned. And they do it anyway, and then they get burned and complain that you didn't stop them from doing it. And it's like, whoa, you're 20 years old. Really? You got to use that thing that we call a brain and use the idea of contemplation that we do with the mind. Come on, man. Put these 2 things together. It's a little different. Teenagers have their own states of their own ways of thinking, and toddlers and, little babies, infants have their own states as well. And we have to nourish those states by letting go of what we think we feel we need.
I think sometimes too you got to look at the state of the mind of the child and what they're capable of comprehending. In certain situations, you try and deal with skillfully. Like, for example, what spurred the discussion about the toilet being clogged. My kids always, they'll throw like wads of toilet paper and clog the toilet. And I tell them, like, the first few times, I said, you can't do that. If you put a whole bunch of toilet paper down the toilet, it's going to clog it. And then I got to go up and get the plunger and fix the toilet for them, right? So then after about the 5th or 6th time of them not listening and doing it anyway, I started making them plunge the toilet. And now they know. They know that if they do that, they're going to have to plunge the toilet, which they really don't want to do. I mean, of course, half the time they call me anyway saying they can't get it fixed, but at least they know that they're going to have, some frustration on their own hands if they do that, right? And they're at the point now where they're 9 and 11, they're capable of understanding that. I mean, your son's still too young.
That's true. He's only 1.5 years old.
He might actually enjoy plunging in the toilet, have water all over the bathroom.
I would believe that.
But the point I'm trying to get across is just there's ways to deal with things, and
Yes.
the answer isn't always to go fix their problem. Put your cape on, run to the rescue. Sometimes it's to make them feel just a little bit, almost enough frustration so that it sinks in, I guess, right?
Yes, you have to be that way with children. Give them a little bit of experience, let them play and do and get an experience of what it is, and then you're right there behind them to say, okay, now this is the other end of it. This is what we have to do on the other end. For example, I don't like when all the building blocks are thrown all over the floor because I'll slip on them very easily. So when I see them all over the floor, I help the kid. Let's put them back. Let's put them back, and we start throwing them back in the box. I'll throw them from across the room. He'll try to throw from across the room, and he'll have fun putting his toys away. And then about 5 minutes later, after it's been all nice and quiet, he'll take him again and just dump him in the middle of the room again. And he'll go, oh, come on. And he'll just look at you and laugh. Go, hey. That's all he does is laugh. Ha-ha. And then I'll just leave him there and let him play. And before he goes to sleep and he's all tired and he's ready to pass out, I go, hey, let's put our toys away. And he goes, ah. It's all he'll start crying. And I'll put him on the floor and I'll sit on the floor with him. And I'm tired too. I want to go to sleep. But there's no sense in being angry with him for putting his toys on the floor. That's what they do. And I did that when I was a kid too. And I remember my father yelling at me to put my toys away. So that's where I get the habit of having him put his toys away at certain times. But instead of getting frustrated, I would, want him to do it and know that he'll cry and get tired and feel frustrated and he wants to fall asleep, but that's his responsibility. So even now he knows he has to put his toys away, and he ends up doing it by about an hour before he goes to sleep, so we don't have to stay awake longer.
So what about some of these, what would you say to some of these? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Are you there? I was just going to say,
hello?
what would you say about some... Stop that. Can you hear me?
Stop that.
Oh, I think
I can hear you.
We must have a lag. I think we got a bit of a delay here. Anyway, what would you say to some of the parents that just kind of run into the rescue and, no matter what their kids do, they come in and they try and take care of it, and the kid doesn't, the kid just basically leaves a mess on the counter and walks away from it, or, what have you? What would you say to that?
The kid isn't going to learn responsibility. They're not going to learn to take care of the things they do. Biggest important teaching to a child is to let them understand that everything they do, everything all beings do has a consequence, whether it's good or bad. Sometimes a good consequence can become a bad consequence in the next stage of its development. So whatever a child does, they should try to clean up on their own. They should try to do, and the parent should encourage a child to critically think, even at a 1 year old, even at a 7 months old. So some kids they don't like changing their diaper, and they kick and scream and yell and scream. And you're like, okay, let him just play a little longer, and then when he's calmed down, I'll go take his diaper. No, when my kid goes to the bathroom, I pick him up and he starts yelling and screaming. I go, no, we gotta change the diaper now. If you don't like it, don't go to the bathroom. And he's still kicking and screaming, and I'm changing his diaper, and he just sits there and lets me change his diaper, but he's still crying. And my wife says, oh, just, wait a minute. I was like, no. He just did. I let him have 5 minutes of running around in his own pool to make sure everything is ready to go. And now it's time to clean his diaper, and he has to understand that, even though he probably can't. But now the habit is when he goes to the bathroom, he taps you on your leg, does what he has to do, and then he'll walk into the bedroom waiting for you to change his diaper. And he'll complain here and there, but it's still a little bit more understanding that it's something that happens when he does this, that this is the next step that he has to do, is get cleaned up, or he'll play with something and now he puts it back. If we don't encourage him to put it back, he'll leave it alone. He'll put on his robotic toys with all the noise that just drives people crazy, and he'll shut it off on his own because he knows that it drives everyone in the house crazy.
So, moving away from kids a bit, what would you say about people that feel I don't know what the proper word or how to explain it is, but I guess say you feel like you're almost lost in the sense that you lose yourself because you're trying to do everything for your family. You don't pay any attention to yourself.
Well, you're saying like putting 100% for everybody else and no percent for yourself, huh? That kind of idea?
Right. Yeah, sorry, we got a bit of a delay still.
We
But
do.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Well, basically, when you have a family, 100% of everything you do is to keep the family stable, which includes yourself. So if you need 10, 20 minutes or an hour of time for yourself, find some time before the whole day begins where you have to put out for everybody else and take care of yourself. Like I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4:30, so I can sit at least for an hour and a half in meditation and practice before my son would get up around 7. So I go from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, then I run out to practice an hour of Tai Chi. By 7 o'clock, if he didn't wake up, my wife didn't text me to say the kid woke up, I come back around 7:30. And that's what I do for myself. Now, it's tiring at some points, but that's what I'll do because I value what I enjoy and I value giving myself things that I enjoy. And if I can maintain some type of status of health and calm, then the rest of the family would. Because if I just didn't do what I do and didn't practice, I would have the worst temper in the world. And my temper got cut down 14 years ago by cultivation methods. And then when I met Buddhist teachings, they went down even further than that. Now my temper only comes when a crazy driver almost runs us over. That's about the only time I get really angry.
So again, you have to make sure you take care. Obviously, as the moral of the story is, you have to make sure you take a little bit of time for yourself, and then that
and understand
time you take for yourself sometimes it may be a benefit for everybody, right?
Yes, and understand that all other time doesn't exist. Everything you do is time for yourself, though. Even though you're going to work from 9 to 5, or you're doing whatever kind of time schedule you have, and then you have to spend time with the family, and spend time with the wife, or spend time with the girlfriend, and the baby, and the mother, and the father, or whatever, all that time is your time. There is no separation of time. One of my students brought over a friend today and said to me, how do you separate how much time you should have for certain things in your life? I said, I never separate any of my time. All my time is together. If I'm going to sit and meditate, if I decide I want to sit and meditate at 6 o'clock in the afternoon while my son is, playing with his toys, going all over the place, I'll sit and meditate. I don't care. He sees me, he'll sit down next to me. I keep a mindful watch on him. I just practice being mindful while I'm sitting in my lotus posture, and it's mindful. My wife wants something from the kitchen, I'll just go and get up and go get it for her. Why? Because it's called mutual respect and mutual honoring. I will respect that she respects me for what I'm doing, and if she's too busy and she needs something, I'll just respect that she didn't bother me the whole time. I'll go and get her whatever she wants and then go back and sit down. I'll spend more time, one will spend more time complaining about the time they don't have than actually doing something in the process so it can make the relationship and the energy of the house stable. So all time is your time and family time. I'm just saying take a little more time instead of the integrated time and keep it for yourself if that's what you can do. If you can't do, then accept that all time throughout the day, from the morning you wake up, the minute you wake up in the morning to work and coming home and dinner and cleaning and all the fun time you have with the kid till 9, 10 o'clock at night, or the family, whatever, or even later with your significant other, all that is your time. How you view what you do and how you view the other person and what they do and the notions we hold about the things we want, now that will create the stress. That will create the obstructions in your day, thinking, oh, I don't have enough time for myself, when actually you do.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people like to be around people all the time. Maybe it's just my nature, but every now and then I like to have some alone time, even if that's just sitting there reading by myself for an hour or whatever. Me personally, I feel I just need that every now and then.
Of course, and you know what? It would be beneficial if we all did have that. I'm talking from a point where you don't have the chance to sit for an hour by yourself and read a book, or sit and just drink some tea or something by yourself when the rest of the family is hanging out, or whatever the case is. I'm saying that if you do find that, okay, I like this specific thing, I want to have some time for myself, then your wife will go, okay, great. You have that time. Then you have to offer that for her too. Everything you have to give. So everything you want, first give, then you can get it back.
Right. So what about like, I know we've sort of touched upon this before, but what about if your kind of goals are conflicting with your spouse? Like, say for instance, you wanted to practice Taoist cultivation and that required like celibacy for 100 days or something like that, should you pursue that, or should you just, I guess maybe the conditions aren't right for that type of practice? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's not certain, because if the significant other would understand what it is you're doing and they don't undermine you, basically saying, look, I'm going to do this practice. It requires 100 days of celibacy. Basically, we can't be touching each other. We can't be, doing anything else with each other in bed or out of bed or whatever, in the sense of sexual anything. I would like to embark on this. I would like to experience this kind of thing. It's a practice for 100 days. It's only for 100 days. Do you think you can work with me on this? And explain to her what could be the benefits for both people following this practice. Okay, if the person respects you, then, and respects their wishes as well, they would offer and say, hey, okay, great. If they don't, then there will be a problem, and the problem isn't, okay, I want this, why can't you give this to me? And the other person would be like, well, why do you have to do this? And there's all this confusion about what it is exactly having to be done here. Basically, it's two views opposing each other. Not one person wants to understand the other person's ideals. Now, if you are, okay, we'll put a person A wants the 100-day celibacy, and B doesn't want the person to embark on this practice, and really tries to fight them for it. You understand that now B is facing their own greed and anger and is doing ignorant things of arguing and maybe name calling or whatever an argument can consist of. Okay, so they're being selfish. And though this is something you want, if A is something A wants, if A starts yelling and screaming back at B in defense, then they're just being the same exact way. So there has to be not a, I'm going to compromise. It has to be a, let me help you understand what I would like to do. And if the person says, okay, I think I get the idea here about what this can do for you and what you think it's special about, what's special about it. But, I kind of like having sex. I kind of like doing this, and, I kind of like this kind of thing. Now you're stopping me from having this for 3 months. Then further discussion may make the other person say, okay, let's go for it. Maybe I'll do that with you. Okay. Or, okay, you do it yourself. I'm pretty much okay. Do whatever you want. Two people have to mutually respect each other's practice in order for each other's ideas. Doesn't mean you have to go along with it. Just says, okay, this is what you want to do, and I can't stop you from doing certain things you want to do, and I'm not going to die if I don't have sex. So, sure. Okay. You really have to be accepting of your significant other's ideas and choices here. That's a very important part of keeping a family stable, is respecting each other's ideas, listening and being patient and trying to basically understand, come to a state where there can be some type of discussion about it. Because in a family, it's not one, it's 2 or 3, or how many kids you got. Your ideas affect everything.
I'll throw a curveball at you. What are your thoughts if someone's a cultivator? Like, do you think they'd be better off not having a family or better off having a family? Or is it kind of, or does it depend on the individual and the situation, I guess, as always?
It really depends on the person's mind and their conditions. I mean, I I used to say I'll never want to have any children, and then I turned around and said, oh wait, you know what? I think I will. By 35, I should have a kid. No, by 33, we had a baby. So it's really different in terms of the cultivator's mind or the person's mind. As a cultivator, having a family allows you to experience the whole entire world and how to basically help the whole world, because at that point you are taking two living beings and providing for them or helping them to be provided for. That's like feeding a whole country.
Certainly. Well, it's like a more difficult path for sure, but
well, generally speaking, most people would see that it's a difficult path. Oh, I got to go to work. I got to make money. I got to buy a house. I got to do that. But who said that's what you have to do? That's just the idea of what people have in society. Their goals are set in this way. Go about doing what you do and understand that your child and your wife will going to need to eat. So get a job so you can provide. Your cultivation, you want to be selfless. Go and cultivate making some money to give to your family so they can make some food at night for themselves. That should be rewarding in and of itself, that you can make people feel not feel hungry. That's the goal. So that's cultivation there, giving.
And again, we've touched upon this numerous times, but
Yeah,
what if you're in a negative type relationship, right? And that's throwing everything out of balance. I mean, not to say that you're innocent 100%, but if the other person really isn't an understanding person, how does someone handle that? Do they just suck it up and be patient and cultivate patience while they're going insane? Or
I don't advise divorce unless people are trying to kill each other. So if it's all words and arguing and feeling all nasty with each other, you need some type of proper views there. Basically, an argument would be me, I. This is what I want, okay? And instead of that, throw in the we. This is what we can do. And when I am doing this, we will have this. Whether you get to see it or not, this is what's going to happen for us when I do A. If you do this, this is what happens for us. So it's a we. It's not a me anymore. Arguments and this, oh, he did this, so she did this to me, and let me get back at her for this. This is not going to help the situation. If it's that way, then leave. If you can't fix your own mind. Now, this goes deeper. It's not just, okay, on the peripheral, okay, a little family counseling is going to fix it. No, you have to change your own behavior and let go of your greed for what you want. That's the important goal here. Okay, now I've had experiences in relationships that would drive people crazy, and they think I was nuts too, for waiting and patience and letting things go as crazy as they had go. And it wasn't that I let things go, it was because let things go the way crazy had become in my experiences. It was just that was exactly where it was going, because this is what the person's mind was like. So I can't make a person change. You can just change yourself and hope for the best. Be an example, at least.
As a cultivator, do you think that I'm trying to be careful how I phrase this, but say as your perception becomes a little more clear, could that maybe make you see the other person a little more clearly? And then, boy, I don't know how to. This is a real tender subject, but I guess could it help you see their mind a little more clearly than maybe they could see their mind themselves, and could that cause problems?
Well, when you are clearing in your mind, when you're becoming much more aware and mindful of things you've done, or things that you usually do in about your habits and whatnot, and you start changing them, but you see the other person is still the way they were before you were doing this, or just you see them in a way that is not really going to be that helpful, or less confusing. Basically, it's you seeing them clearly is not going to help them see themselves clearly, or then we would all become Buddhas when the Buddhas can see our minds.
It's a good point.
But what you can do is be more patient. Because it's not easy for a person to see their faults. It's not easy for a person to see anything that they do in any type of clear manner whatsoever. Our conscious mind, our false thinking is all over the place. It's confused as it is. Throwing a little bit more philosophy, and they would just make it even more confusing if they don't have a grounding for it, a foundation of teaching to basically start practicing on. So when you see things a little bit more clearly, the other person doesn't, or doesn't even want to accept your ideas about what you think you're seeing, okay, all it is just being patient, because that's not something very easy. It's like kind of saying to the government, hey, look what you're doing, and making them go, you're right, let me change. No, they don't do that. They put you in jail.
But the temptation is going to be there for you to try and hold that mirror up to them, right? And I
Right.
think that's probably like throwing a grenade at them. I don't know.
Yes, you can't just go, hey, you know what you just did? Ha ha ha, you're a moron. You can't do that.
Well, you
just...
can in theory. your results may not be very
Sure.
desirable.
It may not be desirable to do, but you are very right. You can do that. But anyway, it would be better to be patient, because you don't want the person to resent you, and you don't want the person to resent what you're doing, because it just makes more false thinking. It's much better to be examples of what you do, and hopefully they catch on, and then you can say, hey, you always do this, and let them go, yeah, I do, so what? Okay, for example, my wife likes to, she did, like on her contact lens case, she would never close it all the way. So when I would bump it or move it by accident, all the liquid would come out of the contact lens case. And I would go, oh my God, you didn't close the contact lens case. Oh, okay. Like, okay. So what happens is that it spills everywhere when I hit it. She goes, well, don't hit it. I said, you're actually 100% correct. I said, you're right, I shouldn't hit it. But my non-mindful actions caused me to hit it, and I don't know if you were mindful of you not closing it all the way. Oh, I think I do have that habit. I was like, okay, can you change it?
I'll try not to hit it, and you try to close it. Deal?
Yeah, and she goes, no, that's just what I do. I'm like, oh, geez, let me see what else. So I start making a joke out of this, and I go to every bottle we have that has her like cosmetic stuff, and I was like, oh, I said, look at all these 10 bottles. All of them, the caps are not all the way closed. Oh my God. And she goes, what? Now you don't like it? She starts to make a joke of it too. I was like, yeah, but what if like we have an earthquake, and then all the liquid comes out of these bottles too? Then after the earthquake, I got to clean up the mess. Just, I'll clean up the mess. I was like, but the fact is that a mess happens. She goes, yeah, because we had an earthquake.
Oh, you're trying to argue with the woman. Uh-oh.
That's what she's doing. And I laugh because I know it's totally cool. I love that kind of thing, because that's quick, straight up sarcastic remarks that I would say too. I'm like, no, you're totally right. Yeah, we do have an earthquake. But, that habit is kind of silly, that you leave things unclosed, and, it can get everywhere. Just for the sake of it getting everywhere. I mean, just close the cap. She starts laughing, and, oh, yeah, whatever. So on her big thermos with water in it, she asks, can you give me some water? The water in the thermos. Bring the thermos to me. I say, sure. So I pick it up. And I go to pick it up, and, I like to practice Kung Fu, so I like to practice my gripping for my fingers, so I pick it up with my fingertips. And me, like a unmindful moron, forgetting that she doesn't close things, I pick it up, and I pick it up with such force that the whole entire thermos falls straight down. Water splashes everywhere, and it's boiling hot water, because we drink hot water. And I have the cup in my hand, which is like, after I pulled it up, I turned it over, and the water that splashed up was in the cup, was in the cover, and it went all over my hand, and I'm looking at it going, oh, okay. And she goes, oh my God, you got to be more careful. I'm like, you really? So can you just close things? She goes, but I don't close them, so you got to realize that. And I said, I know, but come on. She starts laughing, and I'm laughing with my hand all like beet red from the burning. She goes, oh my God, your hand is red, your hand is burnt from the hot water. I was like, really? I was just thinking, damn, you don't close anything all the way. I didn't even care about the burn. I didn't even feel it. So we clean up the mess, and now because the baby's around, and he just hits everything and takes everything, she closes everything. I said, oh, you close it for the baby, but you don't close it for me. And her answer is exactly what I would answer. Well, the baby has no clue what my habit is.
That's actually pretty good.
It is. I look at her. I was like, this is the perfect woman for me. She's totally Chan right there. That's all
Yeah.
Chan talk right there. I look at her, I go, I love this woman. I say, you're great. This is perfect. But if you can take it that way instead of screaming and yelling, maybe just a little bit more like use the expedient means of, suggestion and hoping for change or suggesting the change, then fine. And if not, the other method is close it for them. Because if you're wasting your time trying to talk to the person to do something they obviously have not done or will not change to do, you could have closed it already. And the I says, well, why do I have to close it? I didn't do anything with it before. The fact is that it came into your mindfulness. It came into your gaze. It came into your awareness that this wasn't closed. So why take the responsibility and push it on someone else? They didn't find it they didn't find it the way it was. You did. So just close it.
Just make sure they see you closing it every time. It'll probably drive them crazy anyway, and then they'll just start closing it on their own.
Perhaps, maybe not, but it's like my kids in school in their classroom. They throw paper on the floor, and the kid next to them sees the paper on the floor and just like looks at it, and then goes back to doing the work. And I say, wait, what are you doing? I'm doing my work. I was like, no, what did you just do? My work. I said, no, you obviously did not realize you just looked at that paper on the floor and did nothing about it except stare and then go back to your work. I say, well, you saw it. Now it is in your vision. It's in your state of vision. Pick it up and throw it away. And well, it's not mine. I was like, but once you saw it, it's yours. At that point. So if I look at everything, this is how they answer, and I love it. So if I look at everything, then it's mine, right? I said, technically, sure, but theoretically, yeah, sure. You can say that as based on what I'm telling you, but respectfully, no. But when you see a paper on the floor that you did not throw, and it's obviously in your general vicinity, you obviously like things being cluttered around you. No, so pick it up and throw it out. You help the whole entire classroom maintain a state of tidiness when you just do that for somebody. Make it like you're doing a good deed. Yeah, whatever, okay, and they just pick it up. So it's one of the 6 harmonies, and we talked about this before. Just in general, just you see something that another person in your household has not done. You seeing it, now it becomes your task. But the fighting over whether or not you should do it, that's the ego. That's the greed saying, I don't need to do this. I want to do something else. This is not my responsibility. I had nothing to do with this before I saw it. But now you see it. It's in your vision. It's in your space. It's in your mind now. You must do something about it instead of scream and yell about why it was like this. Just like you did with the children who clogged up the toilet bowl. You made them plunge it. Perfect. No, like you plunged it before, but now it's like, hey, you know what? This is your responsibility. You did the work. Now you got to do the deed. You have to fix it up and make them do it. Now they change.
Yeah, and again with the piece of paper or whatever, that's kind of a small example, but a lot of times we probably spend as much effort rationalizing why we shouldn't do something as opposed to just doing it, right?
Right. We don't want to lose our identity and what we consider is our own integrity. We grasp and we're greedy to maintain our state of superiority even over small little useless things that we make problems over it. And most of our problems can change just by taking out the I out of the situation and saying, what the hell am I really grasping for? Am I wanting an emotional state of superiority over this person? Or I want the person to see how great I am and I don't want to lose my position as a man or a woman in front of this person so they don't take advantage of me? You're taking advantage of yourself by thinking these thoughts. Right away. You're taking away from you. Why is it bad to just do something in the state of, well, it's not my responsibility. Like, in my household, it happens. We leave stuff all over the place. And if I come across it, I'll pick it up and throw it in the garbage or throw it in the sink or wash it. Honestly, they go, it's your responsibility. You didn't do this. I am nobody's master. We're on nobody's master, especially not our significant other's master, and they're not ours. We're there to be a master of the world we want to create with each other and the experiences we want to have with each other. So what the hell is so wrong with just doing the things that they could have done for them? What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. That's called mutual help, mutual coexisting. It's just coexistence, basically.
Yeah. And again, as to go back to my example with plunging the toilet, I mean, they'll do it, and most times they don't fix it anyway, so I got to come up and help them. But at least they're mindful that it's they're gonna try, or at least put in a token effort, and they really don't want to do it anyway. So at least they, gives them just a little taste of bitterness, right?
Yep. You let them understand that. And for families, basically, it's mutual respect. I mean, you want the person to respect you, you must also respect them. And sometimes you have to do it first. And it shouldn't be a manner of, should I respect them for this or should I bother them with this? No. It should just be straight up, this is what is going to be done in order to let this person feel totally at peace and calm in this house and in this relationship. And who cares in turn they give it or not? There goes our greed again. Who cares if they give it to us? They give the respect and compassion and consideration that we give them. Maybe they don't give that to us. Okay, so now we got to argue with them because they don't give us what we give them. Who said they're supposed to? Who said we're supposed to do that for them? We just do it because that's what we like to do. We think it's the right way. So what part of them, what way they find is right that we like? Look for that. And if you don't, what the hell are you doing with the person?
It's funny too, like with these things, like my first reaction, my gut reaction is always frustration, right? Or mine. Look, I don't want to say anger, like rage or anything, but just irritation, I guess maybe. But I always try and catch myself, like, and then I'll just kind of, once you catch yourself giving into that, it's almost like becomes a funny situation. You can kind of laugh at it. For me, anyway.
A hard time. Yeah, that's a good way. And some people find it hard to laugh at themselves when they feel they are in the right way to do exactly what they think they have to do. So when it's maintaining this, I mean, you're a cultivator now, and if one's a cultivator and their significant other isn't, it's something they should just have to had understood before you guys get married or live together. This is your lifestyle habit. And if the person doesn't like it, why would you, just for the sake of saying, I love them, so I'm going to throw this part of myself away, or this part of my practice away? Who said that's what's supposed to do in a relationship? If it's evil and terrible and causes sickness and suffering for people, throw it in the garbage. But if the other person assumes it's suffering because they can't see you for the hour or two that you want to sit and meditate, it's a problem with their views. And you don't have to make them understand, but you don't have to stop doing it just because they misunderstand.
Wow, it's easier said than done sometimes.
Of course, and I had to deal with it, and the person, just they're very crazy experiences. I would be sitting in meditation, and they know that, and they would come and call me on my phone when they're in the other room. Oh, I didn't want to come in and bother you, but can you help me with something? I said, you don't want to come in, but you're calling me on the phone. Well, you answered the phone. I said, because you called me 5 times already. So I will answer the phone now and see what you want. In about 10 minutes, you called me 5 times. I did not answer the phone. Okay. What do you want? Can you get me something to drink? No. You can get it yourself. Oh, you're so selfish. You just want to do what you want to do. You don't want to do anything for anyone else. And I just laugh. I sit there and go, okay, you know what? Good luck with that. Goodbye. Hang up the phone and go back to meditating. And then the person would argue and tell their friends how selfish I am, how I don't want to help them or get them anything to drink when they ask me nicely. And I would hear them talking to their friends about this, and I would sit there and I would wait, and they get off the phone. I was like, so you actually just told your friends, you failed to tell your friends how you knew I was sitting in meditation and that you called me about 5 times nonstop just to get me out of meditation to go get a glass of water for you, right? You didn't say that. So you don't want your friends to think you are crazy or there's something wrong with you, and they just look at you like this, look at me like this. Well, you are selfish. That's all you want to do. I was like, no, that's what I do. It's not what I want to do. That's what I do. And it's something you knew, and obviously you have a hard time accepting. At this point, it is not my problem. You knew this, and now you have to deal with it. I'm not going to change it. And if you don't want to change how you deal with it, then you're going to have to live with the fact that this is what I do.
Yeah,
some people are afraid. Yeah, some people are afraid to end up with well, I'm leaving. Okay, I've ended up with that. Oh, well, then I could just leave. Okay, there's a door. No one's stopping you. You don't love me. It's not about love at this point. It's about really realizing mutual respect for each other. And if that's not in this relationship, then what's the point of holding on to anything? You can't hold on to anything anyway. So I value myself more to offer the kind of emotion and the kind of time spent and the kind of things spent into this type of emotion for somebody who actually, has the sense to respect somebody. I'd rather give it to someone who can respect somebody. I don't care how many years, 5 years together, 6 years, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. Why? Because it doesn't exist. Right now is that all that never meant anything to you because you just have this issue with what you want. I don't have an issue with what I want, and I don't push my issues on you. You seem to like that on me because you have this superiority problem. And that's where it goes. We're just throwing it in the person's face. Doesn't really work. But it worked because that's not my relationship anymore. And it had to be that way. So this is just peripheral speaking on experiences. It's not to be taken as the whole entire gamut, the whole entire thing of the experience. What I'm saying is that when you experience people who are not respecting mutually, a relationship where you're not respecting the person is not respecting you, it's best to question. And if you can't question, then you're always going to be stuck in that. And the question is, why am I seeking this kind of respect from this person? Always ask the why do I want this? Where does this wanting come from? Where is this expectation coming from? And who said this expectation is supposed to be what I should expect in a relationship? And who said I should expect anything in anything whatsoever in life? Okay, you have to find the origin of these things and what they mean, and if they actually have some substance to them. Because in truth, they don't have substance. They're all empty. It's useless. I don't expect my wife to do anything for me. She doesn't expect me to do anything for her. But I do everything I expect to have to happen in a relationship that I know would make me happy. In that case, it makes that person happy. So the best thing to do is whatever you want in a relationship, shut up. Whatever you want out of the relationship, you got to put into it. If you get it back or not is irrelevant, because it's not about what you're getting back. It's about what you're giving out that makes you experience the world you want.
All right, why don't we keep pushing an hour here? So do you want to end it on that, or did you have any other final thoughts? Or
no, really, it just comes down to mutually respecting each other, and that just basically means if I don't like half the things a person does, I don't have to dislike it outwardly. I could just not like it, but I'm still with that person, so that means I accept it. People really got to realize this. If you don't like certain things about the person and they're a really big issue with you, make it a point of discussion and try to see if it can work. Don't be afraid of, oh, how dare you say this? I'm leaving. Don't be afraid of that, because the more you give in to that kind of fear of being alone, the more you actually feel alone, even when you're with the person. And that's worse than actually being physically alone or without the person's significant other. Being with someone and feeling alone is worse than actually being alone. So just don't sit there being afraid of being alone. Don't even bother with that idea. Who said that has to be the idea? Just sit there and go, look, I don't like this situation. Can we work on it? And can we change it together? And if the other person has a big problem with it, you got to really look back at what the hell you're doing in this situation in the first place. And if you feel like you want to leave, well, then if you're married, I suggest don't sit there and go, I could just get divorced and quickly divorce. Why is that an answer? No, don't run away from the problem. Try to work the situation out, because a relationship is about how you're going to work and deal with the issues that you feel are important. Both people. How are you going to work with them, become stronger with each other together? That's important. And if you really can't, where the person is just totally mindless nitwit, or maybe it's you, then you're hopeless. You're just going to always be in this crazy state of psychoticism throughout the whole relationship. And I would suggest at that point to, stay in that realm and run away. What can you do? If you're always eating poison and you're always getting stomach ache, what are you going to keep eating poison and getting a stomach ache? Stop eating that kind of food. Can't do it. I don't suggest divorce for any reason unless your life is in danger. At all. you know.
Yeah,
And it's
okay.
also, yeah, okay, whatever, right? Yeah. Well, that's what happened in my experiences, but anyway. But running out is not the problem. If it's where your life is in danger emotionally, mentally, and/or physically, then there's a situation that must be looked at and tweaked up a little bit, fixed a little. And if there's no way to fix that, and two people just really can't do anything to fix it, work it out, grow with each other, and put down the I, well then you can't do anything about it.
Then
Gotta
you just
accept
go into a cave and study the Tai Chi symbol for 10 years, and you'll figure it out.
Probably. So funny. But yeah, it's not a tricky answer. It's not a tricky question. What do you do when you can't get along? You find out the reason why you can't get along, and you get along. Very simple. But if you really just nobody wants to do that. In the old days, it was you're stuck. You live with that person until you're dead anyway. So you have to learn to deal with it. In our modern times, it's, well, I'm going to go get my lawyer and we're going to get a divorce. Okay, well, that's what happens in our modern times. Good or bad, there's always a consequence for it, and we waste our fortune. That's why people shouldn't flippantly get married. It does a number on your merit and virtue. When you divorce, not get married. I hope we don't edit that last part out. Anyway.
All right. Well, on that note, I get a little quote for you, and you should be able to figure this one out. But if you can't, I won't hold it against you. All right. A family is a place where minds come in contact with one another. If these minds love one another, the home will be as beautiful as a flower garden. But if these minds get out of harmony with one another, it is like a storm that plays havoc with the garden.
Ooh. Okay. The Buddha? No, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. That's awesome. I guessed it right.
Your first guess was Jean-Claude Van Damme, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was actually thinking on Schwarzenegger, but...
Equally as wise as Van Damme. Anyhow, well, thanks for joining us again, Lynn, and thanks for listeners for joining us to listen to Expedient Means with Lynn Away and Tom on Radio. Please be sure to join us next week, and I think we're going to discuss the Skanda Demon States a little more.
We're going to discuss so many things and Demon States and stuff. It's going to be a surprise. So,
and then the week after that, we're going to give you the ultimate key to happiness, fortune, and enlightenment.
We're returning to New York in July for the summer. Anyone want to have a cool meeting out in New York? A cool barbecue? Hot barbecue. Look me up.
All right, very good. Well, thanks
again.
Cookout.
All right,
take care.
Bye.